The fucking vegans are winning. Might be time for me to retire from talking about food and shit and weight loss and stuff. The NUSI, which is headed by Gary Taubes, author of Good Calories, Bad Calories, funded a study on the ketogenic diet. Basically, they tested the fat loss while on a ketogenic diet versus the fat loss on a regular standard diet, low calorie. And they came to a conclusion that has vegans everywhere singing fucking praises. So I'm gonna go through a guy named Kinda Vegan on YouTube popped up in my feed. That's how I saw this shit. Posted a video that was taken. They haven't published the study yet. It's about to be published. It's in the process of being published. So it's a brand new study. But the scientist that did the study, Dr. Kevin Hall in Vancouver on the 1st of May in 2016, the scientist got interviewed by Dr. Yanni Friedhoff. And this was posted on Kinda Vegan's channel. So I'm going to do a fucking video response to this and defend a little bit against the ketogenic diet is dead, that we got to stop eating the fucking animals now. Can you hear me now? Please stop eating our beloved animals because it's not helping you fucking lose weight any. And this study really doesn't cover the basis of how a ketogenic diet can assist in weight loss. Do you have to be fucking... Well, first let me give you my views on the ketogenic diet. It is an important weight loss tool to control your insulin levels. We all know that insulin is a storage hormone. When your insulin levels are high, you cannot access your body fat unless you're in some kind of energy deficit. The only way to achieve the energy deficit is to lower your glycogen stores to a significant point. There's more than one way to get there. A ketogenic diet allows you to do it nutritionally versus fasting and going to the gym, or the other two methods to deplete your glycogen so that you're in a negative energy balance on your first energy tank. And that will allow you access to your fat in your second energy tank. So basically, a ketogenic diet is a tool, like intermittent fasting, like exercise. These are all things that you can do, and each method has advantages and disadvantages. All methods lead to weight loss. However, it's a question of lifelong intervention. Can you do these things the rest of your life? It's the only way currently known to man to keep the weight off permanently. You can't diet and exercise and pound the shit out of the fuckmaster at the gym and then expect to keep the weight off the second you stop. Weight's going to come back. If you're intermittent fasting and you're doing lengthy fasts and it's controlling your weight, or you've lost a lot of weight doing that and then you stop fasting, weight's going to come back. If you're eating a ketogenic diet and you're keeping your grams of carbs below 30 grams, then you stop and you go back to eating carbs, you're definitely going to regain the weight. These are tools that I give you on my channel, are things that you can do throughout your life. You can cycle through them. You can use them in tandem to help get better results. You can do all kinds of shit to cause your weight loss. So this study basically isn't telling me anything new. The conclusion they kind of came to in the study was that the fat loss slows slightly when on a ketogenic diet. This is a very limited study. I think it was 30 days, but let's go through it, and I'm going to address every fucking thing that this guy says in his study, which I believe is a slightly flawed study, and it isn't comprehensive overview of the ketogenic diet. It is very scientifically accurate in its findings, however, because they use DEXA scans, they control the diet, they kind of control the exercise well enough that it's within tolerance, and they're pretty stringent in how they controlled this. So let's go through it here. Once again, if you look here on the NUSI Hall study, no ketogenic advantage. It's basically a study that supposedly proves that a ketogenic diet isn't any better than any other diet. And by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you what the ketogenic advantages are. There are ketogenic advantages. They're significant, and we know them. We've experimented with them on ourselves on this channel, those of you who have been doing this with me, and we know the advantages and disadvantages of a ketogenic diet. And I'm going to clarify those as we go through this. This might be a little lengthy because we're going through someone else's video and commenting on it, aka fair use of their video. I wanna respond to this because vegans are jumping up and down. Hey, we won! The animals are safe! Ketogenic motherfucking fat-eating bastards are gonna stop fucking eating this shit, and we're gonna fucking push our vegetables up everyone's ass. So, let's continue.
Sure. So basically, we were really interested in the idea of trying to test this carbohydrate insulin hypothesis for obesity, which posits that basically obesity is caused primarily because of high insulin levels, which are driving fat into fat cells, starving the rest of the body, and thereby basically causing increased hunger and decreased energy expenditure. So,
okay, let me stop right there. We both know that protein and fat triggers satiety. Some carbs, although it takes a lot more, also trigger satiety. However, fructose and sugar triggers an increase in appetite, as if you didn't eat. So if you're eating sugar in your foods, those foods will keep you hungry, and within hours you will be craving. A ketogenic diet does not cause this issue. A ketogenic diet will keep you full, and you will only be hungry when you legitimately haven't eaten for a long time, or you aren't consuming enough calories. That's it. If you're consuming enough calories for your weight maintenance on a ketogenic diet, you will never experience hunger and cravings. Once you've adapted, once you've gotten the sugar out of your life, once you've gone through your withdrawals from certain carbs, it's really that simple. So that's advantage number one in my book.
And so how long was this? This was a 1 month study?
this is a 2 month inpatient metabolic ward study.
So this study was only 2 months. Now, I've cut this down a little bit to save time. I welcome you to go watch the original video at Kinda Vegan, but don't subscribe unless you're a vegan, because I'm willing to bet they're a little biased. 2 months. Do you think that that is an adequate time period to gauge fat loss on a ketogenic diet? Fat loss varies over long periods of time based on individuals. Some individuals will lose weight at a rapid pace and then level off. Some individuals will lose some, gain a little, lose some. When I was losing weight with my intermittent fasting, my little squiggly line, which downward trended over a year period of time, would go up some, down some, up, down, down, up, down. And, it was not a straight gradual line. You'll see a similar trend in his graphs, But that's over a long fucking stretch of time that I lost the weight. And it wasn't ketogenic, mind you, but it was involving the idea of reducing my insulin through intermittent fasting, which worked. Now, 2 months in my book is not a good enough study to call a ketogenic diet a failure, you know, to say it's not the way to go. There's other reasons to choose a ketogenic diet. Now, there are some people who just can't do it for various reasons. Food availability, you don't like meat, you don't like fat, you know. If these are things that bother you, then obviously you're not going to be able to sustain a lifelong ketogenic diet or even a cyclical ketogenic diet, which is kind of what I'm subscribing to now, mixed with some intermittent fasting. Is my lifestyle. I will eat keto most of the time. I will have some carb days in there in which I consume the things that I like, that are carbs and sugar. And then I go back to my disciplined ketogenic diet. And I'm getting better at that. I've improved to a more balanced level. Ultimately, I plan on getting to a point where I break my plateau, I get to a certain level. I'm still working on that now. Right now I'm doing a month, as I told you. There's not going to be a whole shit ton of progress videos this month because I've decided to maintain my current body weight, and I've been successfully doing so with 1 carb up a week and a ketogenic diet with hardly, I'm not even really fasting. I'm 12 to 16 hours, sometimes 18 hours if I feel like I'm not hungry. But I kind of let my body decide when to eat, and so far I've been maintaining my weight, mostly being on a ketogenic diet. If I were to do that shit on a fucking carb-based diet, I would fall off the wagon and end up gaining back a lot of weight. So far I've been maintaining with a liberal use of ketogenic diet. And the reason for that is, obviously, because my fucking insulin's low, and it's keeping me from storing all of that shit.
And 17 overweight and class 1 obese subjects, I know.
Okay, 17 obese subjects. Pretty small snapshot of population. You would want at least 100 to 200 people to be able to make a definitive statement. I don't know anything about these 17 people they chose for this. So, keep that in mind.
So here is the study design, basically. 2 months on-site metabolic ward. Basically, the first period is a baseline diet, high carbohydrate diet, 25% of total calories coming from sugar. And every week, they spend 2 days inside a metabolic chamber. And basically, what we do is over the first period...
So basically, that's the standard diet and exercise 500 calorie deficit method of weight loss. And if you look at their graph down here, you got the body weight, and it's slowly but surely dropping. And this is about what happens in a normal individual who isn't fasting. They're eating their meals all day, they're exercising, but they're in an energy deficit. 500 less calories than they burn a day. This is what the world has preached for weight loss. Calories in, calories out, go to the gym, and this is the graph.
Of time, we adjust the number of calories to match what they were burning inside the chamber, so that we put them in energy balance inside the chamber, and then we clamp the calories for the rest of the period of time and switch them to an 80% fat, 5% carbohydrate diet, keeping protein clamped all the way along.
And there's no...
Alright, now if you look at this graph, you can tell the correlation here between the ketogenic diet and the reduction in fat mass. You see a massive dip during the initial period. A lot of this is water weight. I also know that you can perceive lean mass holds a lot of water as well. Muscles hold shit tons of water. They're going to shed countless amounts of glycogen as time goes on. So you're going to lose a shit ton of water weight when you go ketogenic from a carb diet. It's a given. I've seen it from anywhere from 6 to 8 pounds of water weight, gained or lost, by switching back and forth between these two. So I don't know if they're doing an accurate assessment of fat versus water weight versus lean mass loss.
We're in the chamber and weren't doing very
it's
much.
a small room.
They can't exactly exercise a great deal.
Exactly. So that's the other part. We tried to clamp the physical activity as much as possible. 3 30-minute sessions on fixed wattage on cycloergometry.
So they did do some cardio. They pounded some Fuckmaster real quick. Oh boy.
What happened? The blue period of time, this is the last 15 days of the baseline run-in high carbohydrate diet, so they're losing weight slightly. It's a roughly 300 calorie a day negative energy balance overall. They're losing fat over this period of time. We switch them to the low carbohydrate diet. They lose a good chunk of weight, about 1.6 kilos right away. Interestingly, and I think most importantly for the carbohydrate insulin hypothesis, is that the fat mass slowed.
This is total weight, this black line here. And this is fat mass. So basically, the total mass dropped here, right? And this is where we switched. So this right here is water weight. But then you can see the weight loss kind of remains in a similar. Now it's a little slower. I'll admit the fat mass loss does slow, you know, over the 30-day period. However, this is a transition period right here. Your body's doing a lot of bullshit when you switch to being a fat burner. So it might slow down. It might take a while. First, you're dumping. See, this period right here, what they're not really talking about is it takes 72 hours, sometimes longer, depending on energy level. They said energy expenditure was limited. It takes a while to go through all your muscle glycogen, all your liver glycogen. So this area right here where you lost this ton of mass, they're trying to say that that's all lean mass. We both know, or we all know, that this is where you lose your water weight in this period here. It takes up to a week to really nail all your water weight. About a week. This is about 7 days right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 days. So 7 days, they go through all their glycogen. They lose all of their water weight. They lose water weight out of their lean mass, particularly muscles. If you ever, any bodybuilders out there know, when you low carb, you get flat. So this is not muscle loss, as much as the vegans are trying to call it lean mass loss. This is water weight. Once the water weight is gone, the weight loss once again correlates to the fat loss. You see that? So here we go. We come through here. We're doing this shitty fucking diet. We switch to low carb. We immediately begin dumping our glycogen stores, our water weight. We dump our salt. We retain 4 to 9 pounds less water weight when you're on a ketogenic diet. So that's what they did. They switched, and this motherfucking weight dropped like a fucking shit ton during the week. This is body weight. That's fat mass measured by DEXA. And this, all this tells you is what we already know. We lose all of our water weight when you remove carbs from your life. It's really that simple. Carbs are not essential to survive. We know this. There's plenty of people. There's people who've been ketogenic for over 14 years. Carbs are not required to sustain life. But when you switch from being a carb burner and you empty, this is what this is showing. The emptying of your first fuel tank before you get to the fat. And then the line continues. Now the other problem I have with what they're saying it slowed. If you look at this line over here, this is where they fucking claim that it was fast. You're getting a nice steady loss. Now, anybody who's ever dieted knows when you begin a weight loss protocol or a diet of any kind, you lose weight at an accelerated rate. As the weight loss progresses, your weight loss slows. That doesn't matter. However, they initially started dieting them on this baseline diet, and the fat loss was greater. Then they switched. So the flaw in what their study is it's not fucking long enough to come to a conclusion, because this is a transition period. They need to document the entire loss from obese down to beast, the entire chain, before you can decide whether or not a ketogenic diet has an advantage over a regular baseline diet. You need to compare by somebody who lost all the weight, how quickly they lost it, how efficiently they lost it, and whether or not they regained it back. So all you vegans jumping up and down, okay? So leaving that aside, okay, so fat mass loss slow. That's the big thing. Yes. It slowed. It's gonna slow, no matter what you're doing. I did it with intermittent fasting. It slowed. It stopped. It was a squiggly line, but in the downward trend eventually stopped. So it will eventually level off once you get closer to your set point. Whatever that may be, it's different for different motherfuckers. There is a set point that you get to, and your weight loss slows on the way to it. So,
has slowed down.
Yes, exactly.
On a low-carb, high-fat diet.
That's correct, yes.
Which is certainly not what we predicted.
The prediction was you drop insulin, you increase lipolysis, you increase the amount of fat burning, and therefore you should...
Now keep in mind, this is a legit study funded by pro-ketogenic doctors. Okay? Taubes, huge ketogenic guy. So
lose, you should release those trapped fat from the fat cells, you reduce body fat. This is measured by DEXA.
But that's certainly not what was found here.
That was not what was found here.
Okay.
We actually saw a slowing of the fat loss. In fact, it took the full 28 days on the ketogenic diet to lose the same amount of fat as the first 15 days.
Sorry, so the...
See, once again, it's a sliding scale that they measured for the baseline diet. Now, what they should have done, in my book, to really give it the Pepsi challenge, is done 15 days baseline diet, switched them to keto, another 15 days on keto, switched them back to the baseline diet, so on and so forth. Of course, you're going to see several little fucking jumps in weight when you switch back to the carb side of the equation, as people regain all of their water weight. This is not a long enough study to effectively show this. Ideally, they should do like a month or two, a month. We'll just say that. We'll do a month of fucking baseline diet, then do a month of keto, then switch back to another month of baseline diet, then another month of fucking keto, and that'll give you a better picture of the fat mass loss, and also accounting for the fact that the lower you get in your body weight, the closer to your set point you get, the more your weight loss and fat loss is going to taper off and eventually fucking plateau. It plateaus differently for everybody, depends on your damage. These are particularly obese people. They are going to be losing a shit ton of fat before they plateau. They're not going to get all the way down to thin. They won't get down to... Overweight's probably the best an obese person can hope for before they plateau. And then they have to do more extreme actions to try and lower their set point. I haven't figured out how to officially lower the set point yet. I'm working on it. But this study that vegans are jumping up and down about is fucking flawed. It's really flawed. And I'm sorry, you guys really want to get another nail in the ketogenic coffin, but I personally experience with this diet a lot of benefits that I don't get on this baseline diet bullshit, whatever the fuck that is.
First 15 days of the control diet,
The baseline run-in diet.
people
Yep.
lost as much fat as the
20
Basically, they're saying it took twice as long during the ketogenic period. It took the full 30 days being in a ketogenic diet to lose as much weight as the initial. Once again, your weight loss, it looks like this. It's like, and then it starts to taper down, and then it levels out. That's what it's like, a curve that looks like that. It's like this curve right here. This is like if you were to lengthen this curve right here out on how it levels out. You start out really steep in the beginning, and then as time goes on, you eventually plateau. It's how it works.
study diet
And these motherfuckers are smarter than me, supposedly, and should know this.
with the low carb, high fat.
That's correct. But more weight.
Right.
So they
So they lost from lean mass.
yes.
No! They lost a little lean mass. And I tell you, up here, they're losing lean mass too. Their body weight's going down faster than their fat mass. They're losing lean mass in this period. You see that? How the lines are converging right here? The fat is pretty steady paced here. But this line is dropping to a point where it will converge, and it does so before they switch. See, right up here is where they switch. So right about here is where they switched. That line converged over here. So this is lean mass that's causing these lines to meet. If there was no lean mass being lost, the weight loss versus the fat loss would never touch. So, and then of course you lose all the water weight out of your lean mass when you switch. And here we are continuing pretty much the same level of weight loss. And they're going to say you lost more weight on the ketogenic diet. I contend you lose the same amount of lean mass and fat on a ketogenic diet. The reason you experience more weight loss is the water weight. That's the variable they're missing out on here. Water weight is significant. It can be 4 to 9 pounds, depending on the individual, of water weight. It could even be more on an obese individual, because water is retained in fat cells as well. So when you lose a shit ton of fat, you're also losing a lot of water. So this weight loss is not coming from your fucking muscles. It's coming from your glycogen stores depleting, your water weight being released. It's caused by your salt being ejected and therefore retaining less water overall in your body. That is what is going on here. I can't stress this enough. Water weight's a bitch, people.
And in fact, one of the things that we measured, which is not shown on the poster, is we measured 24-hour urinary nitrogen excretion, which is an index of how much protein is being utilized. That went up over the first period of the ketogenic diet, so they're actually losing protein as well as water.
Now,
Now, we all know that when you're dieting or when you're exercising or when you are fasting or whatever have you, you are losing lean mass. The reason you're losing lean mass is because you are losing protein. You do lose a lot of protein in a ketogenic diet to gluconeogenesis. That's where protein is converted to sugar, because your body does try to maintain minimal glycogen storage throughout your fucking life. It'll do anything it can. If you fast for 60 days, it's going to eat up your muscle and make the glucose, because you do require some glucose to survive. But your body makes it from protein or some fatty acids. So measuring the protein loss, kind of not relevant, I don't think.
fast was that weight loss? So it looks like it's only just 2 kilograms over 28 days, so it's basically a pound and change a week.
Yeah, but you can see that this...
Pound and a half a week of fat loss. I've seen way more larger numbers than that. So 1 to 2 pounds a week is about normal. That's about what you should be experiencing no matter what you're fucking doing. If you're properly dieting and exercising with this basic line diet bullshit, you are going to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. If you're eating ketogenic, you're probably going to be in the same deficit. Some people are going to be in a larger deficit because they are more satisfied with their appetite. Therefore, they don't eat as many calories as somebody on a baseline diet. They will experience more fat loss because they'll have a bigger deficit until they get to their set point. Then their body will tell them to eat more.
This period of time, right, very shortly after introducing the ketogenic diet at time 0, you get this rapid weight loss, which is then relatively stable.
So the only reason I was asking is having seen studies in the past where rapid loss was associated with disproportionate loss of lean tissue.
Right.
So I wondered whether or not that was what we're seeing, but it doesn't seem like they lost fast enough for that to have happened.
Right. I think that what you're really seeing here is you're seeing it's not a huge amount of protein loss. You're seeing a transient loss of protein, which is essentially slow.
That means temporary. Transient means temporary, for those of you who are not up on the lingo.
Slowing down the fat loss transiently, and then that sort of picks back up again after you.
And yes, the fat loss picks back up again after this transit. You see the trend here? It's a downwards trend. Then you switch diets. The body goes, oh fuck. You dump a shit ton of water weight. Fat loss slows. But then, if you look at this line and this line, they're almost the same, negligibly. What slowed you down was the transition period. Because your body shifts the energy it's burning. You know, you're transitioning from burning fucking sugar over a 7-day period into burning fat. And your body is busy trying to adapt to that. So yes, your fat loss slows. But then it resumes. And I'm willing to bet if they'd have continued this graph, it would have stayed a nice steady line that went down and eventually leveled out. If they were given enough time to lose down to their set points.
You've got that transient flood of protein. And we know that insulin, for example, does suppress proteolysis. So it's not that surprising based on the physiology. What I'm showing here is the fact that we've actually done what we've said. This is 24-hour C-peptide in the urine. It's an index of how much insulin is secreted over the course of the day. You can see that that drops by 50%.
And that proves that insulin is lowered significantly. You know what's not going to happen when insulin is low? You're not going to make new fat. So the other benefit of the ketogenic diet is you're not going to regain the weight as easily. I know this because I'm currently doing it. Whenever I'm eating ketogenic through the week, I don't regain weight. I hover, I go down a little, up a little, down a little, up a little, down a little, up a little. And that's probably based on the little bit of fucking carbs that I have on my diet. Up to 50 grams, which is a little more than a strict keto would fucking use. So, if you do the baseline diet and you eat the way I'm eating right now, you'll start gaining. It'll go back up. I'm not counting my calories to maintain my weight. I'm not fasting to maintain my weight. Right now I'm trying to get my body to say, okay, this is where we're at. Everything's normal. Everything's good. All the hormones are reset. Then I'm going to continue my weight loss down to get to my goal. In about probably July. Mid-July is probably when I'm going to start. I'm going to get through 4th of July. Then I'll start working on what I got to do, assuming I don't gain weight during this period. So, I mean, I've already debunked this study in my book. Say something in the comments below. Let me know if you think that I'm way off base or if I'm missing something here, or, you know, watch the video yourselves and find out, because I did cut it down a bit for this. You know, just, you gotta take these studies for face value. You gotta question them. Don't let somebody hand you a fucking study and then say it's gospel, okay? It's not conclusive. It's an observational study that was strictly controlled. It's not randomized. It's a strictly controlled comparison of two things. There's no blindness in this. Everyone knew what they were eating. Everyone knew what they were doing. It's just an observation comparison between two diets over a small time frame with a small chunk of people. It's expensive to fund a study like this. Getting 100 fucking motherfuckers to do this study would have been ungodly expensive, and I'm willing to bet that there's not enough money behind it to support that.
So really quickly, basically the energy expenditure in the chambers, this is the total number of calories burned while they were spending those 2 days a week inside the chamber. You can see that the induction of the ketogenic diet does cause a slight increase. It's been very slight increase.
Not as much as would have been expected.
Nowhere near.
Yeah, a slight...
So this looks like to me from here, with the error bars, of course, but it looks about 100 calories a day extra on a ketogenic diet as far as burning goes.
And then it goes away.
So when you switch over between a standard diet and a ketogenic diet, you burn a little bit of extra calories in the process, 100 calories. So switching back and forth, maybe that's, I wonder if that's a contributor to the intermittent fasting and why it is effective, because you're switching back and forth regularly between ketosis and, you know, not strong ketosis, but you are gradually, like I said, it's a graduated scale. It's not an on-off switch. It takes time. While more fat is being burned, less glucose is being burned, glycogen's depleting, takes 72 hours with no exercise to deplete. Takes a lot less if you go and pound the Fuckmaster and do high-intensity interval training and do high-intensity interval training of your muscles and that kind of stuff. You can deplete your glycogen in a day. You know, just work in some fucking cardio for an hour or two, do some long 5K running, and then go in and fucking lift some weights, and just to make sure that you got all of your fucking shit burned off, you can get it done in a day. You're going to be starving like a bitch at the end of the day. You're going to be ready to eat like a house, but you can do it in a day.
Okay.
So
again, not what we would have
linearly
hoped for.
over. Exactly. And you can see that there's a big chunk of that is in sleeping metabolic rate, which again wanes away over time.
So, yeah, there's a transient or temporary increase in energy expenditure when switching from a standard diet to a ketogenic diet. I agree with that. Because we all know it. It's not a fun process. Your body's going, fuck. I want my fucking bread, my pasta, and my Pop-Tarts. I want my fucking carbs.
And then finally, they are shifting quickly to fat oxidation.
So there's a question from Catherine. She wants to know if it goes completely away, but it looks like you haven't done a long enough study to necessarily conclude one way or the other. Maybe it goes back up, maybe it goes down,
who knows?
Maybe it stops.
Yeah, who knows? But
now I can tell by the guy's line of questioning in this that he is trying to... He's using... The guy that's asking the questions is biased. He's trying to draw out of the guy things that disprove or are negative about the ketogenic diet. Nearly every question the guy that's interviewing has asked has been to kind of draw a negative response on how the diet is. You know, the guy that's being interviewed's just being honest of what he found. He's just laying it out, saying this is what I did, but the guy asking the questions isn't asking all the questions. He's only asking the ones that make the ketogenic diet look like a pile of dog shit.
I guess one would have to postulate some very interesting physiological phenomenon to suggest that it goes back up.
I'm sure people will.
Everybody will. It's never going to be long enough. It's never going to be extreme enough. Interestingly, from the purpose of our last paper, where the complaint was that that you would get an increase, further augmentation of fat oxidation after the first week.
And so briefly, though, for people who...
Yeah, it can take 6 weeks for your fat oxidation to be prime. 6 weeks of ketogenic dieting, that's when you've become fully adapted. You don't crave a fucking carb to save your life. You are a fat burning machine. Your body is efficiently burning the fat. You're not pissing out as many ketones. You know, you're using the ketones you make, and you're only making what you need to make at that point. Your body becomes more efficient at fat burning over at least 6 weeks fucking time. Sometimes, like, some people contend it's longer.
Hadn't seen the first paper. The first paper was criticized because it was too short.
Too short,
and so the thinking was that they weren't fully induced into...
They weren't fat adapted.
They weren't fat adapted in
Yes.
a ketogenic state. So that would not be the case here, because most people would agree that fat adaptation occurs before 2 months.
Or at least 1 month, right? So they're on the ketogenic diet for 1 month.
That's right,
period.
yes.
But interestingly, you'll notice that all of the adaptation occurred within the first week.
So their study's not long enough to say that all of the adaptation. Yes, a significant adaptation did occur, and it leveled out for the first fucking month. But the longer you go, the more adapted you become. Granted, it is probably a gradual increase in fat oxidation over time. But it's also based on your energy expenditure. So I don't see what the point of this graph is exactly. You know, you aren't fat adapted. Yes, you see the biggest increase in the first week, and then it levels off. But I contend over a long period of time, it does gradually downward trend on here, increasing your fat oxidation.
So 24-hour RQ goes down and it stays down. It does not take another nosedive as one might have hypothesized if you had further fat adaptation after the first week. You got all of it with it.
Yeah, he says you got all of it, but he didn't do a long enough study to really, you know, what about 6 months? What about a year? I'd like to know these things. Let's do a long-ass study, people. Come on.
In the first week. So our conclusions are, you know, this is an inpatient controlled isocaloric ketogenic diet, got small increases in energy expenditure, basically at the limits of detection using current state-of-the-art methods. Despite the rapid and substantial drop in insulin secretion and an increase in fat oxidation, we saw no augmentation of body fat loss with this low insulin diet. In fact, we saw slowing of body fat loss with the ketogenic diet. And
now that's the part the vegans are going, woohoo! But the flaw in the study is they took really obese people and did this, so therefore their initial weight loss was done. They did the baseline diet first, then switched them over to keto. And we all know when you first start losing weight, that's when you start losing the most weight. You know, and they put them on a slight calorie deficit to lose 1 pound to 2 pounds a week, 1.5 pounds is what he said. And then when they switched over, it was all water weight, and then back to the weight loss, and it was gradual. So overall, the study is not long enough, you know, and he even makes fun of that. He's like, people are going to say it's never long enough. Come on, these are long-term. Ketogenic is a long-term approach. It is not something that's a get fucking thin quick scheme. It's a long-term solution to fat loss and weight maintenance over a significant period of time. 2 months isn't even enough. I'd say to give it a good Pepsi challenge, you need a year. And you need 2 groups of obese individuals, randomly double blind. I don't know that you could do it blind, but randomly, you know, randomized to one side or the other. Have one group doing the standard diet side by side with the other group. Measure them appropriately. They're doing this in the same individual, which is nice. It does show a consistency in switching from the baseline diet to the ketogenic diet. But if you really want to say one versus the other, you need 2 groups of people. One doing the standard diet, one doing the ketogenic diet, using the same controlled environment, the same DEXA scans, the same metabolic chamber shit, the same food, you know, calorie-wise, just different macronutrient composition.
Data don't support any sort of large magnitude changes that are really physiologically significant in terms of augmentation of energy expenditure that have been hypothesized in the past to be the metabolic advantage of
That's a nice way of saying they thought you was going to lose shit tons more weight and have higher energy expenditure on a ketogenic diet. I've never fucking contended that it was any more efficient than any other method. My argument for the ketogenic diet has always been about sustainability and appetite suppression and reduction in cravings, which are negative things you encounter on a basic diet.
On this, I take it that this has not increased your buy-in for the insulin hypothesis in terms of what...
I think the combination of these two studies on the metabolic side of things basically falsify the carbohydrate insulin hypothesis.
So that is a very...
That's a pretty strong fucking statement, Mr. Scientist. Well, I beg to differ. It did not falsify it. No. The insulin hormonal weight loss theory, anybody that has been on this baseline diet shit knows from the starving and hunger and the hormone problems, because it's not all about insulin. There's other fucking hormones involved, ones that make you want to eat, ones that make you hungry. Those are important parts of maintaining weight loss, because your body, if your hormones are out of whack, it'll tell you to eat more calories than you burn. It will store more calories than you can with the insulin. It just, there's more to it than just insulin. Insulin is very important. Very important. So this, I can't believe he's coming to a conclusion on this study. It's kind of sad. This is the state of science.
Very firm statements, and I won't disagree with you, but...
Of course he's not going to disagree with you. He's trying to fucking argue the vegan side of things. He's been nothing but hostile to the ketogenic diet his whole fucking interview.
It's, when's the paper coming out?
By the way, I don't think this is the original poster. I don't know where this video originated from, because I'm thinking Mr. Vegan... What was his fucking name here? I'm thinking Kind of Vegan didn't originally interview this guy. He probably got this interview from somewhere else and reposted it. Because I've seen it in a couple different vegan videos.
I know.
It's a good question. So this is, it was just resubmitted to the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition after a round of relatively positive reviews. So I would anticipate probably hearing something positive within the next few weeks.
And there was a question, does this mean the hypothesis is now over? I suspect you would say yes.
I still think that there might be something interesting.
I like how he's trying to put fucking words in the guy's mouth. I suspect you will say yes. Please say yes. Say yes, so vegans everywhere can rejoice. Yay!
To say about appetite. It was something that was measured very indirectly in this study, which I'm not presenting the data yet.
Certainly my clinical experience with ketosis would say that it does indeed help with appetite. The issue, of course, that I have with it is that I can't find people who want to live like that forever, which also...
Oh, you don't, the vegans don't want to live forever on fucking ketogenic diet. Fuck you. Some of us like the diet, alright? Some of us find it more sustainable than the hunger and cravings associated with veganism. And for every one person that's saying what he's saying, that the ketogenic diet is unsustainable, I can find just as many people, if not more, saying that the vegan diet is not sustainable. So this is a stupid fucking question. You should just not be allowed to interview people because you suck.
Really is what's required if you want to keep the weight off forever.
If you're only interested in losing weight transiently, then maybe a very low carbohydrate ketogenic diet's the way to go. But as Yoni points out,
once again, he was led into this response. The guy's going to defend his study. The guy's going to defend his conclusions. This is his conclusion. His conclusion is that the hypothesis of hormonal obesity treatment is false. So he's going to defend it, and the guy questioning him is leading him right there. He's going, here you go, there's a little kid, come follow it. Come follow it to the vegan homeland. Come on, come away from Gary Taubes and come over to Dr. McGregor, or Gregor, Dr. fucking whatever the fuck his name is. Come over and join us. You're not a ketogenic dieter anymore. You must fucking eat fucking vegetables. You must save the animals. Except for that ape that almost killed that kid. You kill that fucker.
You have to be willing to do something permanently, to persistently change your behavior to keep the weight off permanently.
Awesome.
I agree. You have, in order to keep, see, we agree on something, you know, mainly because this guy, I do respect this guy's study. It's just got a lot of holes in it, a lot of flaws. It's not enough to draw a conclusion. So that's where this guy fails in my book. But we do agree that any intervention that you do to lose weight has to be maintainable for the rest of your life. If you can't maintain what you are doing the rest of your life, you will not maintain your weight. You will increase it. Some people don't ever stick to one thing. Some people spend their life jumping from diet to diet to diet. I believe they're called yo-yo dieters. And that's their solution. I'm going to end this here. Mainly for time reasons. We're almost an hour here. So that's it. I was going to do comments, but I don't have time. I spent a lot of time on this video. The video isn't going to be an hour long after I cut it, but it's still pretty fucking long. Alright, what I want to say in closing, here are the benefits and drawbacks of a ketogenic diet, laid out by me, who's been doing it for a while now. I'm not an expert on it. I'm just a fucking asshole who's done it for a little while, in addition to intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is still my best tool. It's still what I use the most because I can do it the rest of my life without issue. Ketogenic diet has its flaws. The flaw of a ketogenic diet is you miss some of your foods. You miss sweets. You miss sugars. And if you're one of them people that doesn't trust artificial sweeteners, or doesn't want to deal with the gas or the problems associated with artificial sweeteners, then that is one of the negatives. You don't get a lot of sweets, you don't get a lot of breads, you don't get a lot of pastas on a ketogenic diet. No, not a lot of starches. You miss your potatoes too. These are the negatives of a ketogenic diet, and for some people that makes it unsustainable. I can't be fucking keto, I can't have my potatoes. It's it's that simple. The other problems of a ketogenic diet are the attainability of fresh, whole foods that are required to be on a ketogenic diet. You have to buy meat that goes bad fast. It's expensive as fuck. If you really want to be safe, you gotta go organic. But even that, even then, I contend that the benefits of that are minimal. You don't see a huge difference in health in my book. Not one enough to justify the amount of money that you spend anyway. So it's more expensive. The food's less attainable. It's harder to eat out. Like, if you don't cook, it's hard to eat a ketogenic diet. These are all the negatives of the ketogenic diet. Okay? Now let's go into the benefits. You do not retain water weight. It's that simple. That's the number one thing. You do not get the bloat of water weight. Period. While you're keto adapted. If you're doing cyclical, you're going to deal with your water weight because you're going to go up and down regularly. But if you are a straight up keto, you aren't retaining water. Let me go back to the negatives for a sec. One of the other negatives is electrolytes. You don't hold on to those either. You got to make sure you're eating and drinking water and eating something healthy with electrolytes, putting salt on all your foods, making sure you're getting something with magnesium, vegetables of that nature. Otherwise, you'll get cramps and all other issues that are associated with magnesium deficiencies. I take salt baths in addition. So that's a negative too, is you don't hold on to your electrolytes. That's a pretty big negative, but it's manageable. Okay, back to the positives. The other positives are appetite suppression. You will not feel hunger and cravings once you're keto adapted. I can't stress it enough. You're going to miss things. You're going to remember the drug-like effects of the foods, but you are not going to be pacing around the kitchen, stuffing your face every 10 minutes on a ketogenic diet. You're just not. You know, I go into the kitchen twice a day, usually around lunchtime, usually around dinner time. I have my coffee in the morning to keep me going most of the time. That's how I get most of my 16-hour fasts in. You know, if you put heavy cream in your coffee, that can get you through the entire day. You know, you can get by just spiking your insulin once a day, because when you do eat meats, your insulin does spike for a little while. Not as bad as with sugar and carbs, but it's still significant, especially red meat. So, if you time it all for once a day. So the ketogenic diet benefits that. That's a huge plus, is it normalizes your hunger hormones. Leptin, ghrelin, all of those hormones get more in control, more in balance. The other plus of the ketogenic diet is it's hard to regain weight, even if you overeat on a ketogenic diet. It's hard to overeat on a ketogenic diet, but it's also hard to gain weight when your insulin is down most of the time. There have been anecdotal evidence out there that even if you up your caloric intake with only fat, as in you're not eating anything with your fat, you're just eating your fat, and you do about 5,000 calories of that, you won't regain weight. In fact, the guy that did it lost some inches. It's out there. Just look up the 5,000 calorie challenge ketogenic, and you'll find the study of one that somebody did. So there's anecdotal evidence out there, which is all a study of one provides, that shows it's hard to gain a lot of weight on a ketogenic diet. And every time I'm eating keto, I'm either, you know, I gain a little bit and I lose a little bit. It's like a squiggly line, but it's a little squiggly line. About a 3-pound variance in the same area when I'm on a ketogenic diet. When I put carbs in, oh my god, it's just fucking insane. The weight variance. It's like a 10 to 15 pound weight variance on carbs, with maybe a 2 to 3 weight variance on ketogenics. So that's the advantage also. So, yes, overall, sustainability is important. If you can't sustain a ketogenic diet, my advice would be go cyclical, work in some intermittent fasting like me, and that's a nice balanced approach. Gives you some glycogen storage. You're gonna get some water weight with that glycogen storage, and you might experience a little bit of hunger in that when you do cyclical ketogenics. I'm still experimenting with that myself. So remember, even though I'm arguing with experts, I'm not a fucking expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. Have a nice fucking day. Sorry for the long ass video, but just watch it in chunks. Watch it in little fucking chunks. Watch 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. YouTube remembers where you left off most of the time. And even then, just kind of remember roughly where you left off and keep going. That way, it's like having 5 videos in one with only a couple commercials. You know, because I gotta pay the bills. Alright. See you next week.